Hi, and welcome to Deep Dive with Jamie Stein, where we take a deep dive look at all things reality TV, pop culture, and the world at large. I'm an intuitive and an empath, which means I pick up on the thoughts, feelings, and energy percolating in other people and the world around me. I believe there is meaning waiting to be found at every turn if you're willing to see it. So join me as we dismantle everything from trash TV to high spiritual concepts and learn more about ourselves, each other, and how we're all connected. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Deep Dive with Jamie Stein. I am here today with a very, very good and cherished friend of the podcast, Piper Sample. Welcome back, Piper.
Thanks, Jamie. Hey, everyone.
How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm happy the retrograde has passed. I'm feeling myself again.
I know. It was very intense. Well, given that the retrograde is often characterized as a time of miscommunication and wires getting crossed and oftentimes a lack of clarity. And given that the end of the retrograde signals a kind of clearing and hopefully a sense of clarity being restored, it feels like there's no better time or opportunity for us to take a deeper and closer look at what's been going on between Garcelle and Dorit this season on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I know the Erika Jane drama has really taken center stage, rightfully so. But I have to say, I've been very drawn to this storyline. It feels very charged and heated and loaded for both of them, especially at the reunion. But I think throughout the season, I feel all these moments. I just keep thinking now of the way that Dorit just interrupted Garcelle at the reunion and was like, let me speak, where I just feel like I'm hearing something that has so little to do with the present moment and has everything to do with history. And the whole situation feels complex, and it feels like they never really got to the root of whatever was going on in the first place, which is part of why I think it keeps spiraling around and around and around. So I've found myself kind of confounded by it, especially Dorit's side of it, and had an impulse for us just to kind of jump in and see if we can get some kind of intuitive clarity on what is going on here on a deeper level, what's being brought up in both of them, and why there's such a kind of repetitive nature to it.
Yeah, and I think what I'm interested in and why it feels so relevant to now is because of the way, like you said, the repetitive nature of the interaction continuing to be like a miss. It's like having one person be fighting for something, space, being heard, whatever it is, on one level, and then not being heard on a whole nother level. And so when I feel into it, the first thing I want to say is part of why I feel like they miss each other is because they're talking about something that organizes on two different levels, and when they're talking to each other, they're coming from different places and they can't see each other, is the way it feels to me.
And on top of that, I feel like neither one even fully knows the true level that she's coming from. And so it ends up being this conversation around, you talk too much or you're passive aggressive, and it's like, no, this doesn't feel like what the issue is really about, but they both kind of have a blind spot to their own trigger and what's coming up for them, so they keep trying to find what it is that they're kind of upset or pissed off about, but because they're not aware of it, they never really find it and they never really land anywhere, and so there's just nowhere for the energy to go.
Yeah, and one of the things that stands out the most for me that I get really triggered by as a listener or an observer in these, if you want to call them conversations, arguments, is when somebody clearly says, my experience is this, and then another person says, that's not what's happening. One person is saying, Garcelle is saying, I experience feeling left out, not a part of this group. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but that's what's happening for me on my side. And Dorit comes in and says, that's not what's happening. Instead of saying, oh, let me sit with you and feel into this place, what informs you? How is it that you feel left out? Something where there's a more of an invitation to actually, instead of defend a position, we include you in everything. We're not leaving you out. That's not what Garcelle's saying. She's saying, I feel as an outsider. Well, hello, let's take a look at that.
And then not only am I going to invalidate your report of your experience of feeling like an outsider, but then I'm going to get mad at you when you don't validate my experience.
For everything that I'm doing to include you, going out of my way.
And it's almost like for Dorit, and I think at one point Garcelle even said to her, my experience doesn't preclude your experience, but it's almost like as Dorit, and I feel like we're actually getting ahead of ourselves, but let's just follow it for a second.
Yeah.
But it's almost like as Dorit, I have this sense or experience of, if I allow for Garcelle's experience, it comes at the cost of my experience. Like it's one or the other. If I hear her as an outsider, I don't get heard or seen or witnessed in my experience.
Because I'm used to being centered.
Mm-hmm.
I feel this contextually, like they're bringing up something about what's happening in conversations all over the place, politically, racially. Let's just call it what it is. There's a racial aspect to this, and it's not being named.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because to me it feels both personal and systemic at the same time.
Exactly. And when I talk about two different levels, Dorit is staying in this personal realm, and Garcelle in some way is trying to bring in a systemic piece around it, but I don't know how clear I think she has clarity on it, but it's not being sort of identified as, this is not just personal to you, Dorit, you take up a lot of space. That's just, in this group, the way you fight for things, the way you talk about things, you take up a lot of space. And for me, if I'm Garcelle and I'm experiencing the way space gets taken up in a systemic way, and I'm trying to bring my voice in, and it's constantly being pushed back out or made irrelevant, I would imagine it triggers the shit out of her.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's backtrack a little, if that feels okay to you, and kind of get into some of the nitty gritty to see if we can start feeling a little bit of like what's going on with both of them on the personal level, and then we can kind of broaden it out to the systemic. Because again, I've just found myself confused and confounded the whole season because it's felt so here and there, and it like comes through and fits and starts. So I actually just went back before recording this and watch certain clips of certain episodes just to start getting some clarity about kind of the thread and how it evolved. And so if we start back with like the genesis of this argument, when Dorit goes over to Crystal's house and first mentions, hey, I feel like Garcelle's been taking these little jabs and I'm upset. And the three examples that she has, and these are the three examples she keeps coming back to throughout the season, is one, when Garcelle makes fun of her for talking too much at that kind of early French lunch at Sutton's house. Then two, when they're having dumplings at Crystal's house, and I guess Sutton and Crystal are still hashing out their thing, and Sutton's basically taking a stand and saying, to say that I violated you is sort of taking it too far. And in that moment, Dorit kind of stepped in and started speaking on Crystal's behalf. And Garcelle then stepped in and that literally says, no, Dorit, like, hold on a minute. So that was another moment that she referenced. And then the third one, of course, is when they're at Kyle's Christmas's dinner, and it's the first time they're starting to ask Erica questions. And Dorit kind of pipes in, treating Erica with kid gloves after having had more to say at the previous, all women's meeting where they were kind of decompressing everything. And sort of famously now, Garcelle comes in and says, "That's not what you said the other night. That's not what you said the other night." So those are the three examples that she's really hung up on. And I think just what I want to say first and foremost, for me, it's almost like, again, I think in the place where Dorit's not even aware of what she's really mad about, I think there are a couple things being lumped into one kind of piece of behavior. Because I think with Garcelle, so for me, Garcelle kind of taking a little sideswipe about Dorit talking too much, that just feels like one thing. And it is true. If I think back about Garcelle's tenure on the show, she does have a history of taking these little, I just always think about last season when she accepted that award and she talked about her new friends, some not so much. She does. She takes these little digs that are fun as a viewer. I can also imagine if you're actually in a relationship with her, it might land kind of fun. She takes these little swipes, So there's that, right? But to me, that is different than the other two things. And the other two things, they feel like they have a different flavor of it, where Garcelle is sort of seeing Dorit do something. It seems like Dorit's kind of stepping in, as you said, taking up space. She's sort of offering her take or her opinion in a certain way. And it feels like that does trigger something in Garcelle. And Garcelle, something snaps in her where she says, "No, no, Dorit, like you're not doing that." And for Dorit, it then feels like Garcelle coming in that way. I keep hearing the words like pattern interrupt. It's like Garcelle kind of comes in and stomps something out that Dorit is doing. And then that obviously really triggers Dorit in some type of way. And that's kind of when they start. And so then kind of Dorit comes back with, like you don't interrupt me like that. So I think what happens is then Dorit, I think, is so upset about the pattern interrupt. And it feels like that pattern interrupt takes her somewhere really deep inside of her. Again, I don't think she even really knows where it's taking her. So suddenly all Dorit knows is she's outraged. And she feels silenced in some way. And so then suddenly it becomes this kind of catch all, you take these jabs, and her little side swipes are being lumped in with this other pattern of behavior, which to me feels very different. And then, we don't even have to bring Lisa Rinna into it, but it feels like Lisa Rinna sort of takes that as an opportunity just to like basically fuck with Garcelle. But if we just keep this for now to Garcelle and Dorit, it feels like that's even where like a lot of the confusion starts, is that two things are being lumped together that are actually very separate. And then that kind of, I feel like neither one really knows fully what's being triggered by these situations where it's interesting to me. They're both interrupting. Like Dorit will interrupt the situation to have her say, and then Garcelle does interrupt her. And then for Dorit, it's like, "Don't interrupt me," which becomes its own interruption of Garcelle. And so this is where they get on the carousel ride. I know I'm keeping it general for now. I'm taking this step by step slowly. Let me just sort of stop right there and just see, is anything happening for you?
Well, yeah, like I would love to know more about Dorit's history. Like, of course, as somebody that works with these type of conflicts, it's always interesting to me, like, what is Dorit's reason for interjecting when people are having a conflict? Two other people are having a conflict, and then she has to put her 2 cents in there. What's driving that? What is her need to fix the situation, to make sure that the other two know what the other's saying when she's not? This is where I think she makes her first sort of bid for shut me down. What's driving that? If you drop into Dorit, when people are having a conflict, how come she can't just sit back and let it work itself out?
That is an interesting question. So I want to drop into that specifically. I will say, because I started to feel into this before we got on. And one thing that I thought was interesting that I'll just say up top before I drop in is I do think it's very interesting that Dorit at the reunion said to Garcelle, she was like, it's like you take these little jabs to be relevant. And that stood out to me. It's like, because it's like, you know, we're talking about Dorit inserts herself into these situations that have nothing to do with her. And yeah, like I said, as I was sort of feeling into this, I was like, oh, is there something about like not being in the mix? And it's like, it's my turn. I get to have my say. I get to be relevant. So I just kind of want to.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was, touched on earlier in terms of being centered. There's a real activation for Dorit if she's not being centered. Her attention to detail with dress and glamour. There's some competitive nature that she has to be seen, to be the one. Yeah, there's a very deep need to be seen and heard.
Yes. You said something that did start coming to me when you were asking before, like if you drop in, what do you sense? But before I go more fully into that, what I also want to say, what I think is so interesting about what you're saying is I also started thinking about just Dorit's history on the show, because this is a situation where I think a lot of what Dorit's saying about Garcelle is actually true of her, because I'm just so aware she keeps talking about like, be direct, don't be passive aggressive. And yet I'm just like, if we think about Dorit's time on the show, this is the woman who came in giving Erica a pair of panties to like humiliate her. Right? She's the woman who, last season, I don't even remember well, first of all, she's the woman who will always run late, which is a form of passive aggression, right? She's the woman who, there was some sort of dinner last year where Sutton was clearly upset about something, and Dorit kept kind of poking it, and it was that Sutton had that famous line about the mouse, like, you've had your fun, let the mouse go, or something. So I just want to say, it's like Dorit has an established pattern of being passive aggressive, being underground shitty. Oh, and so the reason why so I think it's interesting that she keeps accusing Garcelle of doing that, but also when I was thinking about all this, I was like, well, let me just quickly drop into Dorit towards Erica, that first season that Erica came and she pulled that little number with the panties. Because I always think back to that because she's never been quite that, I want to say, obvious or flagrant with her shittiness ever since that. I feel like she kind of learned her lesson, and she sort of reined it in. But it was so jarring at the time. And it's like when I kind of felt into her towards Erica at the top of that season, it was kind of this feeling of like, yeah, here's another glamorous blonde who's married, even though I don't know how much older PK is, but the dynamic feels similar of an older established man with money, and Erica's got Tom. And it was this feeling for me as Dorit of, I'm going to show you who's in charge. I'm the one. Kind of what you're saying. And it was this feeling of competition. Like, I'm going to let you know, like, I'm the one, I'm in charge, I'm the boss here, I win. So I just kind of want to say that to sort of, reflect what you're saying.
What I was picking up, it's clear, I think you're already saying it, that she's projecting onto Garcelle, this passive aggressive behavior when Garcelle is clearly saying, you talk too much. That's why I'm jabbing. I'm admit, yes, I've been jabbing you. Yes. And it's because you take too much space, you talk too much. How much more clear can I actually be than that? And Dorit's like, no, that's not it. That's not it. There's something else.
Even when Garcelle's interrupting at the Christmas dinner and saying that's not what you said last night, that is a very direct statement. She's saying that is not what you said last night. That is not an indirect comment.
It's not even silent. Like the like, well, like I can imagine gestures that might be passive aggressive in that moment, but she's saying something direct and clear. And Dorit keeps saying, be direct, be clear. It's like, I want to ask her, what does direct and clear sound like to you, Dorit? What's not being named?
Well, I will say, in Dorit's quote-unquote defense, what I will grant her is I do think Garcelle is charged in those moments, and I think there's something, in that sense, there's something she's not saying. In the sense of where it's taking Garcelle.
And that's what I'm saying, another level, right? Like, this is it's not personal to Dorit. There's probably a rage. There's probably an injustice. There's probably I would imagine the systemic piece around this is what's not getting dropped in, and Dorit feels that on some level and doesn't know what it's a she can't, she's like blind in some way and taking it personal because there's a personal way that she's perpetuating something for a whole mass group of people, and kind of maybe feeling the charge that doesn't feel as warranted for her taking up too much space at a dinner party instead of inhabiting a white body that just takes up too much space, period, and demands to be centered in a conversation that has nothing to do with her, and she's representing something. She doesn't know what she's representing in this context, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's stay with Dorit. I have more to say about what you said about Garcelle, because I did feel into like what's coming up for Garcelle in these moments. And yeah, but let's stay with Dorit, because I do have, first of all, I want to say I actually think there's a major point of intersection between them. And I think for both of them, there's something about the relationship to being an outsider and what it's bringing up for both of them. But I think to your point with Dorit, I think for her, obviously, this is personal, right? And I think it's taking her to a personal place. Like, I just get the sense, this notion of pattern interrupt. Okay, because I'm feeling something. And again, I'm aware I still haven't dropped into your question, which I want to. But it's almost like there's something, the pattern interrupt, this experience of someone coming in and shutting Dorit down. That to me feels like history for her. It feels like there's history around there not being space for Dorit. And it's almost like when she interjects in the way that she goes on and kind of unconsciously holds the room hostage, it's kind of like the way it always lands with me is that moment where she loses it on Dorit and on Garcelle in the reunion and says, "Let me finish." It's almost like that's the subtext underneath her rambling. It's like, I'm laughing because there are people we both know who could do this, where it's like, certain people where it's like, it's almost like their passive aggressive way, of taking up space. It's like, I'm gonna dominate a conversation. I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna keep talking. I'm not gonna let it go. Like, it becomes a passive aggressive way of like, it's my turn. I get to have my say. Because when she gets interrupted and shut down, it does feel connected to something really vulnerable to me for her. And so it's like if has a history in a relationship to being shut down. And so then her way of compensating is, let me insert myself in this really passive aggressive way and hold everyone hostage. But then someone kind of comes into that and shuts that down. It like brings her right back to that original experience. I mean, like you said, she kind of invites it, right? This is how she unconsciously sets it up. It's like she's sort of setting herself up to recreate that experience of being shut down because her way of taking up space is so passive aggressive and kind of obtuse. But nevertheless, she invites it, right? And then it's like it triggers an old rage that it feels like she never had a chance to fully speak or express or embody. I feel like there's probably a more specific flavor of it to get at and that's why I still want to drop into your question that you posed earlier. But is all this making sense so far?
To me, it does. Look, she speaks all kinds of languages. It sounds like she's moved a lot. Do you know anything about her history?
I just know, I think she was born and raised in Connecticut. She had like an Israeli father, I want to say. I think her moving was later in life. I think she lived in Italy and then she went to London and but clearly open to adopting different identities. If her accents are to be, any indication. But what were you going to say?
Well, you touched on a place where maybe some of their wounding intersects around feeling an outsider. So I was wondering about, I didn't know the nature of why she had to learn different languages, if it because she, got moved around a lot. Say, for instance, when she was younger, then it would make sense to me that she always felt on the outside and was trying to work her way into something, trying to become relevant in some way for connection. I was just kind of noodling that thought or that idea. But do you know anything about like does she have siblings? Were her parents married?
There's at least a sibling. I believe they were married. But let me drop in now because, like I said, I keep feeling these so like there's just something for me around this idea. I'm trying to remember how you phrased it, but it's something like, what does it bring up in Dorit? There's a conflict or something happening that has nothing to do with her. What would it bring up in her? Like, why is it difficult for her to tolerate just sort of letting it kind of play? So I want to say it feels very young. Like she feels like this young, wide-eyed kid to me, which, by the way, again, that's sort of how she feels to me when she starts rambling on and on like a kid. And it feels, like I said, it feels connected to something very vulnerable. And it feels like to the kid, it feels like, there's something chaotic happening that definitely I'm not in control of. And it's somehow like if I don't insert myself, I'm going to get forgotten. I'm going to be left behind. It's almost like the flavor of it to me is almost like I'm a young kid and there's like older people and I don't necessarily understand the chaos that's happening. And no one's really kind of tending to me and where I am in relationship to the chaos. So it's almost like that's part of the flavor of I'm going to get left behind here. And it feels kind of scary to me. Like I really could get left behind in a certain way. So let me like get my hooks in there while I can, so I'm not left behind. So I stay in relationship to what's happening around me.
Do you feel desperate?
I just feel really lost and left behind and forgotten about. That's really what it's like that I'm forgotten about here. Like there's a chaos that's brewing. It's not taking me into account. That's why I'm saying it's like I feel young and it feels older. Like I'm not in relationship to it on the same level of maturity or understanding. And it's like I could get lost or forgotten about or left behind here. Mm. Like what about me? Like no one's seeing me. And then like when I say those words, what's interesting is I notice like a smile kind of wants to come to my face. Like almost like I'm pretending I'm okay. Like, I'm okay, guys. Like, I don't know. Like, I can't even let people know that I have needs here because the needs, I don't think they're going to get met. Or I have some idea that it's going to, like, I don't know, be a nuisance in some way. I'm just not allowed. Like, I just have to, like, act like this is all okay. I'm okay. I'm self-sufficient. I understand what's going on. I understand what's going on, guys. I understand what's going on. Yeah.
And I'm gonna make sure that you guys get it worked out so it comes back here. And that's what I would say. I think when I asked, does it feel desperate? The sense is that she interjects before she fully understands and doesn't know that. From that younger mind, is somehow she's missing a larger context of what's actually happening and trying to simplify something that's really complex. And in that is interrupting what's trying to work itself out.
It's funny you say that because that's literally what she does at Dumpling Night. When I was rewatching it, part of what Garcelle said, Garcelle literally says, "Oh, no, you don't, Dorit." And she says, like, you're never going to take Sutton's side. And at that point, Dorit admits, she says, "Oh, I haven't spoken to Sutton about it. I don't know her side. I've only heard Crystal's side." Which means, to your point, she literally was interrupting to advocate on behalf of Crystal, not having all the information. So she's literally interjecting and kind of like that voice that I just said of, wait, what was it I just said? Something like, I know what's going on. Like, I understand what's happening. It's like she wants to come in acting like, she knows what's going on. She's a participant. She has some insight. And yet she literally doesn't have all the information.
Yeah, and I want to tell her, just say this is hard for me. It's hard for me to listen to you guys argue like this. Mm-hmm. Instead of let me be responsible for making sure you understand what I don't understand, that I think I understand what's going on, and then she ends up inviting in, like you said, all this other way of shutting something down because there's no space for anything to emerge.
Yeah, so it's two things. Yeah, it feels like she speaks up because, like I was saying earlier, there's this sense of if this sort of keeps unfolding and resolves itself, like I get left behind. So this is my bid. So there's something in me that's very anxious and uncertain here. This is where I could get left behind. Let me insert myself for inclusion so I'm not the outsider. Exactly. Like I'm here. But what's so interesting, what just came to me in what you were just saying, so Dorit kind of comes in with her own stopping energy where she's shutting something down. And so again, it reminds me of like, let me finish. It's like I'm shutting something down. So I'm here, basically. I can feel safe now. And so it's interesting to me that it then provokes an energy, in this case in Garcelle, but we've seen it come through other people. We've seen it come through Kyle. You know, it provokes an energy from the outside that then wants to shut her down. Mm-hmm. I think that's interesting. Like she doesn't allow energy to fully flow. So then like the world around her doesn't want to let her energy fully flow. She stops something, so then the world wants to stop something in her. And
so she's got to have her faucet running all the time to make sure that it's still moving instead of, is there something, is this needed? Is what I have to offer supportive for what's happening? It's like there's no pause to listen, to trust. I mean, Crystal, I think is, you know, she's astute. She figures things out. She gets to it. But it's like this need to interject protection or, you know, siding or whatever it is, as if Crystal can't speak for herself. Why can't she say, if she's going to interject something, like, hey, can we just slow this down for a minute?
Well, you're asking for a level of awareness that I don't... might be unrealistic from this crew, but I think what's so interesting, but the thing is, it's like, but she's not, I understand outwardly she's sort of positioning this as like having Crystal's back or helping Crystal, but the subtext of this really is like, this is let me make this about me, which again, trying to be relevant, you know? Yeah.
And even with that, like there is that, but there's also this like, Crystal can't do this without me. And that's why I don't know, again, if it's just about her relevance or her that feeling of being left behind, but there's also sort of a protective quality to it, you know. Like usually what she's usually trying to solve something.
Yeah.
As if they can't solve it themselves. Like there's a way, I think, again, in this younger version, I can't trust that whatever's trying to organize itself or work itself out over here is going to happen. So I better do something about it. There's like a kind of an overcompensation in a way also, like a responsibility factor. And I think what you named earlier about like, I'm going to act like this isn't bothering me. You know, I'm going to compensate. And in that compensation, I see what's going on and I'm going to solve it. And then I get shut down.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because Dorit, you know, sometimes people ask me, you know, are some people hard to read because they're so disconnected from themselves? And generally my experience is no, like I can sort of go there with anyone. But Dorit actually is an example where she's hard for me. It's hard for me to feel her. I mean, this conversation is the most I've felt her so far. But I guess I'm just saying this because, you know, the voice I hear and the quality of it, it's like, again, it feels like a kid. It's like, I've got something to say. I've got something to point out. It's my turn. But what I have to point out isn't actually an astute point. Like she feels to me like a little girl, like putting on, you know, like a fake adult businesswoman's outfit, and like a little girl with her play briefcase. I'm a lawyer, like just like playing adult, you know. And there's this quality to it that's just like, it just feels so lost. I mean, I guess it speaks to what I was saying before. It's like a little girl lost in a world of adults. And kind of like, this is how I make my bid for a place here. And this kind of infuriating in terms of like if I'm in relationship to it or I'm on the sidelines, like kind of like this infuriating I've got something to say and I'm going to make you all listen to me as if my point's important, but actually my point isn't important at all. Like she really comes in with something that's just not of like, it's not of relevance. Like it's not a point that needs to be made, but yet she takes up the space as if it's this hugely important piece. And then everyone has to kind of stop in their tracks and like give her this time and attention. Really?
It usually is like it's usually with shut up. Stop. We don't want you in here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's almost like a get out.
And so then if I'm Dorit, right, and I'm like, I've got my pretend briefcase and I'm like kid dressing up in adult's clothes. And so then someone like Garcelle kind of comes in and shuts me down. Is like, oh no, Dorit. I'm just trying to feel like what happens there. I mean, as we've seen, the anger comes up really sharply. And so what's interesting to me is just the contrast in the energy. It's like right before that moment where Garcelle comes in, it's like I said, it's like, da, 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 da. Someone comes in and then it's like, don't fucking do that. It's interesting. It like snaps her into kind of a more adult place. Like, you don't do that to me. Don't fucking interrupt me. Like, I get to have my place.
I just imagined for some reason, like, I loved your, the voice and I wish the viewer or the listeners could see your, like, it was so right on, you know, just this, the feel, you captured the feel of her when she's talking. Energetically, I could feel it. And what it reminded me of, like I had this little visual of kids playing in a room next door and her opening up the door and trying to get in and like literally having like, get out, shut the door. You don't get to come in here and play, but like having something to bring to the table, you know, or to the play. And so, yeah, I just was, again, I'm always interested in, like, is she an older sister, a younger sister? Is she?
I believe she's younger.
She has a feel of being, for some reason, younger and pushed out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I was saying too. And I think part of the reason why I was bringing up that voice is it's also like, and why I mentioned it's hard to feel her, like that's also just kind of her vibe in general. Like, even if you think about her kind of role on the show, it's like she kind of like she dresses herself up. She's always in an outfit. She kind of arrives on the scene. She looks good. She totters around. She doesn't really add much. Like, there's a way that she actually feels. I mean, there is that sort of business side to her, and that to me is kind of when she's the most likable, when, you know, we kind of see her in her element and she's actually doing something. But even with that, the kind of the way that she, like the sort of the role play with PK, you know, like, oh, PK, this is the thing that I do and I'm very good at it. I don't know. There's a way in which she just generally feels, yeah, like a little bit ridiculous, like a kid playing dress up. Like she's sort of just lost in her own world. Like the rest of the world's happening around her and she's just in her own little glam bubble, her own little like high-end designer label bubble, just kind of disconnected from herself and what's going on. It feels like this sort of energetic impression of the way she kind of inserts herself in these conversations. It's kind of how she embodies her life in a way.
Well, and, you know, I don't want to take this too far out, but I cannot help but not mention, like, what the footage that they do show around her interactions with her children.
Please say more. Sorry, I took a bite of an omelet. I thought I was doing this stealthily.
It's like they're these accessories, like the way that she talks to them, like the voice that you're using. There's this. Every time I'm like, what is it like to be her child? Is this the way she talks to them all the time, or is this for the cameras? You know, like I'm like praying to myself, please don't let this interaction that's being shown be on the daily with her children, because they are put in a position to be giving her advice on her outfits and her like, mommy is doing this. I don't know. There's just something that's, again, it's like she is being centered and not her children. And if her children are being centered, it's because they're an extension of her or an accessory to her. And it, like, I can't tell you what it does to me when I see it.
Yeah, it's like her life kind of feels like she's often passive aggressively centering herself. It's sort of filtered through a persona. Oh, mommy, mommy loves her clothes. And, it's just.
Yeah, it's like when people talk about themselves in the second person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the way it feels. She's addressing herself with her children in, like, as a, I'm not talking to you as your mother, but mommy here is having this experience with you. And what about me? How does mommy look? Oh, you don't like this? It feels like a huge weight that she places on the household. And the way that she talks to people, I mean, clearly she's not like a Ramona, but in business, it's like, I'm in charge here. I want everybody to know that I'm in charge here. Even if you already know that, I'm asserting myself again that I'm the one who's doing this. You know this, right? It's like she was planning a party or something. I don't even remember what happened. But I remember thinking, if I was, I've worked at plenty of parties where people are telling you, like where to put things and how to do it. And the way that she does it, I could just feel who she needs herself to be, the importance that she needs.
Yeah. Well, I do want to get more into Garcelle. I guess the last thing I'll say about Dorit, though, is just that I am so struck, though, by the contrast of, as we're speaking, we're speaking to a way where she feels, you could call it split or like disconnected from herself, like that passive aggression. But I am still so struck by how quickly the anger comes in, when someone interrupts her, and how available it is to her. I don't know what I want to say about that. It just interests me that for someone who is often so, again, split from herself, so kind of lost in an airy-fairy world, how quick she is to drop into that and how different the energy feels. Although, I guess having said that, actually, I mean, the reunion is kind of one of the only places where she really does drop in. I feel like a lot of the other times, for example, when she brings up her issues with Garcelle at Lina's lip launch, it is just kind of this needling. It's like she won't let it go. She won't let it go. I keep coming back to it. I keep coming back to it. Like, it is a more passive aggressive, we're just going to go round and round and round. But there are those few moments where something snaps. I guess they're few and far between. For some reason in my mind, it felt, maybe it's just because the reunion's fresh in my mind. I was just like, oh, she really dropped into something there.
Well, I think you kind of covered it a little bit, like over time. It's almost like she saw herself through this experience of being on the show of, oh, I need more of a voice here. I'm not going to sit back anymore. And so maybe all the places where she was more stunned or pushed out or pulled back or, whatever she used to do, now that she's coming in, it's coming in with all that history of being shut down, all the rage that maybe wasn't available in a different defense. Maybe it's accessible now and it's coming in, again, like necessarily warranted or relevant for the actual situation that's happening, but because it's mimicking all these other places from her history, the wave of anger is right there and it's big.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like the last thing I'll say about her is just that it's almost like I hear this voice from the past, like, oh, there, Dorit. Like, just this voice that didn't, like, kind of like you said, the kids pushing her out. Like, oh, silly Dorit. Kind of not taking her seriously and kind of, casting her in kind of this role of like, oh, Dorit, we don't really take you seriously. And then kind of Dorit operating from this place, of I'm kind of the lost one. I I don't even know what I'm saying in this moment.
Well, I think this is her split. Yeah, I think this is a part of where I can feel the sort of energetic split. There's a real deep desire to be taken seriously.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to say is that, and then I think about when I think about what she did to Erica Jane that first season and just the flavor of that, of just the cruelty and then like, yeah, I'm going to put you in your place and I'm going to show you. It's so interesting, right? Like that split on the one hand, yeah, the kind of disembodied, out there, childlike, sort of rambling, and then this other energy of just covert rage, competition, like like vicious. So these are two kind of strong energies in her. Like if I sort of suddenly conceptualize Dorit as perhaps maybe a bit of an oddball, maybe there's something a little bit kind of eccentric or weird about her, or, something about her that's different or offbeat or that doesn't fit into like, the norm. And then I kind of blend that with a real kind of force of will. That's kind of what I'm interpreting in her desire to come out on top, like a force of will, a drive to be seen, like a real sort of fire in her. I don't know. It just makes me wonder, like, who would that woman be? But it feels to me like that's kind of the flavor of who she might be, kind of in a more integrated way. So it's almost like, yeah, you don't fit into kind of our, whatever it was, our mainstream context. We're not going to take you serious. Like, pipe down, Dorit. This is adult business. You don't get it. You're a little weird. And then it's like, okay, so this part of me that would want to sort of speak up and say, let me finish, let me have my say, I have something that wants to be seen and heard, that just sort of gets pushed underground. And then it kind of festers and it gets angry and it kind of gets vicious and cruel. And then I imagine there's some sort of stock she has and like sort of the part she plays, in the family unit of just, oh, I'm little Dorit. And yeah, there's a split there, right?
Yeah, and in that oddball-ish sort of scenario, I would really want her to embrace that. Embrace it in a way that isn't needing to knock people over with it or become special, around it, but to connect, to be more of a connector. I think there's an intention to be connecting in some way and to find the sort of uniqueness or the off-ball-ish in everybody, and to actually celebrate that, as opposed to try to organize it in some way that is shutting it down and making it normative, trying to make something that it's not.
Well, it's interesting you say that too, because one of the threads I have picked up in her before is kind of feeling like this mischievous kind of troublemaker, almost like a Puck archetype in her that kind of can stir shit up, And
yeah.
So that's kind of what comes up when you say that, of like, like the fun, the oddball, the mischief maker, the one who kind of brings out other flavors in people, mixes things up. I mean, in a way, actually, even when I say that does feel like it could be kind of the higher self version of the woman who keeps inserting herself. It's like, let me kind of come in with something that totally like rearranges the matrix. I'm going to kind of meddle, shake things up like Puck does, but in this way that kind of, like has meaning and like is of service, like gets people out of, it sort of knocks them out of like their myopic view. And it feels like, though, in the place where these aspects of her are disowned, and instead, like you're saying, she's sort of instead vying for control, instead she inserts herself with something that's just like, rather than inserting herself with something that's kind of mischievously powerful, which actually, I mean, this is a whole other can of worms that we don't have to get into. I kind of feel like Kathy Hilton does that a little bit. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of
in love with her. Yes.
Well, I would love to talk to you about her, but that kind of flavor of I'm going to come in and kind of mix things up. Instead, she kind of comes in with something that's just, it's totally obtuse. It's joyless. It doesn't have certainly no heart. And it just, it kills the energy rather than enlivens it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, should we shift to Garcelle?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you kind of want to say about her up top, just based on what we've already said, or should I?
Man, she's been hurt. I don't know. I like her. She's hardworking. There's something, there's something that resonates with me around her, and there's a pain there that I think is hard. Yeah, it's hard to come out with, lead with.
What's interesting to me about her, so kind of when I felt into the like the crystal dumpling night and Dorit sticking up for, like, inserting herself to stick up for Crystal, it was kind of this feeling. Well, this is what's so interesting too in terms of reflection, right? Because you were talking about how sort of Dorit kind of inserts herself ostensibly to, like, protect people who don't even need protecting. But it's interesting to me that with Garcelle, these moments are really about, I think in some way, protecting Sutton, which I think in some ways also kind of an identification of, like, what it means to be an outsider. And I feel like as Garcelle watching Dorit kind of insert herself into this, like, I do, even talking about it, I can feel it. It's kind of like this sense of defensiveness that comes up around, like, I see what's going on here. Like, you guys are going to organize around this in order to make Sutton the outsider and to, like, take something out on Sutton. And I can feel that for Garcelle. Yeah, it's like, it's not fair and I'm not letting this happen. And so that's why I kind of feel like it, you know, it speaks to her experience. And obviously she got into it by the end of the season of herself feeling like an outsider, and just even taking in what you just said about she got so hurt and kind of bringing that in. And just suddenly what comes to me is like, yeah, the pain of being on the outside, being left on the outside. And it's funny because she literally said, "Oh no, you don't, Dorit." And that's literally kind of the voice that I hear. Oh no, this isn't happening. Like, not on my watch. We're not doing this. And when I also think about the dinner at Kyle's house, you know, where Dorit was kind of soft pedaling Erica, and Garcelle kind of came in and said, "That's not what you said last night." Because again, I got to point out, she really got in there. I mean, Dorit tried to keep talking and Garcelle was like, repeated it. "That's not what you said last night." And for me, again, it was, I think there's probably a lot there. It was such a complicated situation just to begin with Erica and all that. But it was this feeling of like, oh, I saw you say one thing the other night. Now I see you kind of like soft pedaling with Erica. I feel how this is also kind of like at Sutton's expense. But for me as Garcelle, it's almost like I'm perceiving the way there's a group that's organizing around a certain kind of collude. Like, there's a way they're going to collude together. And that for Garcelle, it perhaps has that sort of group think mentality energy, right? And then I start thinking about, you know, what she witnessed happen last year with Denise. Like, that is characteristic of this group. The Fox Force 5 is what they call themselves. There is a kind of like us against the outsider mentality with them. I mean, Kyle certainly has embodied that over the years. I think she learned that in her family system. It's like the collusion that happened in that household, and the meanness. So I guess I'm just saying all this because my sort of initial hits with Garcelle is like part of what she was responding to is this sense of like the foreboding group energy that like shuts certain people out. And again, even as I say that, I can feel the voice in Garcelle that's like, no. The last thing I'll say, I know I've said a lot. The last thing I'll say is, and I do think it's really interesting that in both these cases, it feels like she's coming in on behalf of Sutton. And it, like, where it takes me, it's like on Salt Lake City when Meredith was getting so upset about what Jen was doing to her son. And like for the first time, like this woman who tends to have like no emotion. She's like affectless. Like for the first time, I felt like I heard anger in her voice. Like I saw feelings come to her face. And for me, I was like, oh, it's easier for you to feel these feelings of rage on behalf of someone else than it is for you to feel them for yourself. And I kind of wonder if there's a flavor of that too here for Garcelle. It's like, I can step in a really bold way for Sutton because somehow it's almost, I don't know if I want to say it's easier, but it's like, that energy is more accessible than sort of doing it fully for myself.
Yeah, I feel something related to that, and I might say it a little differently. So, yeah, let me feel into that because there's something about, like, the group that you were talking about, like the collective, right? And this way that they're ostracizing or pushing someone out, and Garcelle's sort of, like, no. We're all here. we're all doing this thing. You don't get to do that. Like it's kind of for the whole, right? It's for Sutton, and she wouldn't do that for herself, but would expect somebody to do that for her in the group, right? Like, you know what I mean? There's a way that other people haven't had her back. I think she said something around that, like, why didn't you have my back or something? And so it's like part of this is maybe related to, again, I always look at socialization and, interested in how we learned how to be in a system. And, there's something very different about being individuals that come together versus collectively being a group, and how we treat each other there, how we include each other, what that looks like. And I don't think other people in that, maybe Sutton sees something. I don't know if I don't know who's connected with Garcelle in that way, like actually sees her.
Well, because also what I'm aware of is that there's a very real cultural piece here too that's like above and beyond just being a woman of color. It's like she's from Haiti. Haiti, she's Haitian.
Exactly.
So, and I don't know much about Haitian culture, but just hearing you speak about collectivist culture versus individualist culture, I imagine there are differences just in, Haitian culture and the way that that's set up, and American culture and the way that that's set up. Because the other thing that comes through as you were talking, I think this is connected, when I think about like the Erica Jane situation, for example, and how in one moment the women were saying one thing and we're united and we're committed to sort of truth, and we're not basically kind of saying we're not going to just let our friendship with Erica come before doing the right thing. You know what I mean? Like, we're really going to, we need to make sure we're sort of walking with this with integrity, essentially. And then getting to that Christmas dinner and then kind of sensing and seeing, oh, wait, maybe they are going to like toe the line. They're going to feed into her bullshit. They're going to get scared of her. And to me, there was something, I felt this whisper or this echo for Garcelle about the importance of truth. Things really being named, that we don't just cover things up for the sake of like, people being comfortable. I almost, when I say that, what comes to me is it actually, oh, this is so interesting. I don't know what this is, but it feels so true for me in this moment. It makes Garcelle feel unsafe. That like for her, there's safety in what feels true, in clarity, in saying what you mean and meaning what you say. And if it's like that, there's something like, if I feel into her, there's something in the hazy, murky energy of collusion and half truths where it's like the voice I hear, I don't feel safe in this. Like, I don't know what's coming from where. Yeah.
What happened in her marriage?
Mm-hmm.
She was betrayed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I don't know if people knew about it. I don't know. All I can imagine, as you're naming this need for truth and being able to see and see things clearly and name what is being said and check things out, and like not to just turn a blind eye to things that are happening that are untrue. One person is saying something that wasn't said, that was said differently somewhere else. I'm going to bring that in here. I'm not standing for that anymore. That's the way it feels to me. It's like, if I have learned anything from being betrayed, it's I will not betray people, and I won't stand for it.
And then when you say that, I do hear this question coming in, which she spoke to, but I'm hearing it now so clearly, which is this question of, where do I fit in here? And then I feel that struggle.
Do I?
Yeah. And I think, I think everything we're speaking to kind of brings in more systemic stuff, but this really starts to bring it in even more. I think it's just like this sense of, here I am on this show. Here I am with these women. Here I am in Beverly Hills. And it's like, I want to find a way to make this work. There's a part of me that wants to belong and wants to have, literal and figurative success in this universe, right? Because it's about success in the personal relationships, but it's also, this is a job, right? It's a job. It's a very visible job. And kind of like, can I fit in here? Do I fit in here? Does this work? Is this possible? How does this work? Do they care enough about me to make it work? I don't know. I just hear these questions.
Well, even Yeah, and I want to say even more so without betraying myself. Can I do this without blending in? I don't need to blend in. I'm my own person. I think she knows who she is. This is what I kind of like about her. But I noticed something just came in right behind that. Like, yeah, I don't think she wants to fit in at the cost that she's already had to pay around finding her way or fitting in. And I'm all for that. Be yourself. And there is something that I see she does, like you were saying, the places where she does kind of get these little jabs in there, almost to stir the shit. She'll put something in somehow and then kind of sit back. you know, like she doesn't need to be centered at all. Like there's something very self-realized about her in a big way, but it's almost she gets a little glee and pleasure, out of watching these crazy people go at it. Like there's something about that I think I don't know if it. Yeah, like I'm trying to feel it right now. Like I felt this way in my life before, where like that's not me. Like that's whatever's going on over there, and it's almost like a sense of I'm more self-possessed than that or something. I wouldn't go there, and yet in some way she's the one that sort of instigated the stir.
But do you think she's conscious of that?
No, I don't in the moment. But what I do appreciate about Garcelle is the ability to pause and self-reflect. Mm-hmm. Anytime I have seen her being asked questions, not anytime, most times I will say, because she has been very defensive in some places. But I watch her kind of sit back and go, oh, no, that's not true for me. Or, yeah, I meant it. I am stirring the pot. Or, like she'll own what she's doing when she is called out, asked a question. She genuinely reflects. Where I don't see Dorit, for instance, pausing long enough. It's like, I'm going to be right. I'm not letting go of this bone, and I'm going to, hold on to this to the end. Garcelle actually has, in some places I've seen, I don't even know what instances I've seen it, but it was where somebody has asked her something, and she'll go, no, that's what I was doing. But it was like, in hindsight, I know that. I might not have really consciously known I was doing that at the time.
Well, yeah, that happened. It was interesting to watch the lip launch event because Dorit sort of brought those examples to Garcelle. And as she did, Garcelle was like, oh, yeah, you are right. I remember that now. Yes, I did do that. And Garcelle actually was starting to own it. And then what happened was, so Garcelle literally says to her, if I said those things, and then Dorit cuts her off and says, not if you said those things, when I said those things. And that's the moment where Garcelle sort of, you could just tell, like, that's where Dorit lost her. And that's where it kind of became irreconcilable. And I understand because obviously Dorit was, again, being very sort of passive aggressive. I mean, again, I'm still, maybe we won't get there in this episode. I'm still drawn to like Dorit's anger because it's like something switched in Dorit. You know what I mean? Once she perceived, okay, Garcelle keeps coming in and kind of doing the pattern interrupt, the way she can't and won't let it go. I don't know. There's just something about it's like she shifts from to like this, just like you said, dog with a bone, can't, won't let it go. Like, what is that in that moment for Dorit that she can't just let Garcelle finish and give her the grace of completing the statement, which, by the way, Dorit then wants at the reunion. Garcelle, I'm getting there if you'll let me apologize. But she can't let Garcelle do that. What is that in her that's like, no, I've got to nitpick like, you got to say it exactly right. Like, there's a punishing rage in there that feels important. Like, she's the bully. I just want to say that. Like, I felt this, like, Dorit is the bully in this.
Oh my God. She's relentless.
She's
incessant.
She's the person
that would hold you down. What's that?
Incessant.
Incessant.
She is incessant. She's the incessant one.
Totally. Totally. And, I think where they reflect each other is the point in which where they get cut off. And what Garcelle might do is pull back. Like my power is I'm out. Maybe I'll roll. Maybe this is where it feels passive aggressive because it's like you're not worth it. There's no point here. You are a system that is not going to change. This is where I think she disengages in some way, and this is where Dorit gets more and more like that feeling, like you said, of not being of being left or being forgotten, or somehow she keeps going, and I can just see, I don't know, I can just see the two of them together, Garcelle just like holding all this, shaking her head like, nope, keep talking. You are never going to reach me. You will never, ever, ever reach me here. Mm-hmm. And Dorit being relentless in that quest to poke it, to get it all the way in there.
Yeah, it's like the subtext for me with Dorit is just like, I am going to make you answer for this. Like, I am not satisfied until you answer for this. I mean, again, it's like, what answer is she even looking for? Because Garcelle said so many things, and it's just like this energy of like, you've got to answer for this. Sorry, let me just follow this for a second. Oh, it's her rage is here. Like, I'm so fucking angry. Like, don't shut me down. I mean, maybe it is just because she's so it's triggering her in such a core wound, and because that core wound isn't getting addressed, it's like she's trying to scratch an itch with like a ball of cotton that's never going to satisfy it. Like, there's nothing I think that Garcelle could say or do to satisfy her in this place, because it's not Garcelle's wound to heal. Garcelle can't sit there and say like, yeah, like, I'm sorry that, you felt unseen and left behind in a chaotic childhood. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like I feel like she's putting something on Garcelle that Garcelle cannot possibly fulfill.
And Garcelle, like, what the fuck do you want from me? If I can feel this place where I'm sitting back right now, I'm like confused. Like, where are you? You're asking me to be direct. I've been direct. What do you want from me?
Oh, yeah. And so then what happens, right, for Dorit is like, she feels like she's got something to say. She's getting triggered in this old place of rage. The show airs. Most people are not on her side. So again, there's even more of a sense in some way of like getting shut down. I'm misunderstood. I'm not seen. I'm not heard. I kind of feel like we see Tom Sandoval going through a little bit of this right now on Vanderpump Rules. But, I'm not. And so maybe that's also part of why at the reunion she just like lost it. It's just like this sort of building. Again, I just think she's so unaware of what's going on inside of her and what's getting triggered. And all she knows is she just has this like intolerable feeling of like not being seen and not being heard. And she wants someone to answer.
She's all focused on herself. She's not interested in seeing or looking at Garcelle. That's the other piece around this that for me is, I think, the most tragic. It's like if she could just get outside of herself for a minute and recognize that she's in a relationship with someone that has a whole bunch also to add. And she cannot, it's almost like when somebody has an inability to take something in until they get something, for themselves. I don't know how to say this right. It's just coming to me right now. It's like the immaturity or the lack of awareness. It's so large that she can't actually see Garcelle. She's so inwardly focused. She cannot actually turn around and open and bring her awareness to the fact that she is with someone different than her, that has some other point of view, some other perspective to offer, and she cannot let it in until hers is validated.
Yeah, I mean, the words I hear are, it's my turn to be seen.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's ironic, of course, because all she's ever doing is being seen, but because it's coming from a feeling of not being seen, she feels like she's never seen, so yeah, it's like, it's my turn to be seen. And it's like, if I, as Dorit, open up to the notion of seeing Garcelle, before I feel like I'm seen, it's not fair. Like, no, it's not fair.
And not only that, she is being seen. And what's getting reflected back to her, she doesn't like. It's not how she sees herself. And so it's impossible for her to receive it. It's like she's holding on to this idea, I'm not being seen, when she has a group of people saying, this is how you're being seen. Get it? Maybe you should take another look at what you're seeing, because you're getting all this other rich information that actually has been writing in on some lightness, but also there's some cruelty in there from time to time. But I think they genuinely, are trying to help her see something. And she's like, yeah, no, I don't like that mirror. Bring me another mirror.
Well, because then she'd have to feel it. I mean, if she took it in and if she started practicing being mindful of how much she speaks and when she inserts herself, then she's going to have to feel, like, if we trust the information that's come through, that old experience of feeling lost, of feeling left behind, and she doesn't want to feel that.
Exactly.
I mean, it'd be the best thing for her.
Well, yeah, and she'll suck the energy out of the room until she does. And now it's even this is where it'll be interesting, right? Because she got a good dose of it. She's conscious of it. She cannot be unconscious to it now. She's consciously doing it. Now she's even saying, I'm doing that thing, and still does it.
Well, Lemon, so this is what I do want to ask you. So, because you were talking about how Garcelle wants to fit in, but not at like the expense of herself, or like not betraying herself. But
betray herself.
I don't know how you felt about it, but I was so uncomfortable with where things left off in whatever episode of the reunion that was, where it was kind of like nothing was really resolved. And then like Rinna was hugging her and Garcelle was like, yeah, we're starting fresh. I mean, to me, it really felt like Garcelle certainly wasn't seen or heard by the group. I didn't feel to me like she felt resolved, and yet she was kind of participating in this very awkward, okay, everything's cool now. And I don't know. I was wondering your take on that and where you were.
I don't think I've actually seen that part of the reunion yet, but I do remember something similar where I remember that flavor of, and I think it was actually with Lisa Rinna still, where she's like, we're good, right? We're good, right? And she was like, I'm willing to start here. But she wasn't saying we're good. She was saying, and I think it was maybe around the Denise thing or something. I don't remember exactly
it was
what they were talking about or how it came in. But Lisa's like, okay, like, forget it, we're moving on, or like I'm absolved here. And then if there's anything that comes to her, I thought we were over this. I thought it was fine. And Garcelle's like, give me a minute, like, no. I'm saying I'm willing to move forward. That doesn't mean all is forgotten.
I mean, I'll be curious to see what you make of the wrap up, because it really is like everything goes nowhere. Yeah, no one really takes responsibility for anything on a real level. And like at some point, Rinna just sort of goes over to the couch, hugs her. It's like, oh, I love you and I miss you. And can't we just start fresh? And again, to my mind, it just seemed like Garcelle was kind of like, okay, like, I guess this is just what I got to do to move on. And like, again, to be a part of this group. And Andy's sitting there being like, oh, like this ended on such a good note. And I just like, my stomach turned, like taking in the fiction of Andy Cohen's like sugar coated reality. So, I'd be curious what you think about that, because I don't know. I am really drawn.
Was it the final? How many episodes of the reunion are there?
Well, yeah, you probably don't know this because you don't keep up with stuff. We're getting 4 reunion episodes, so I think we just saw the second one. I think this happened in the first episode at the end or something like that, before Kathy came out.
Oh, well then maybe I just don't remember it, or it didn't strike me. I'll have to go back and watch it again. I know I have, like, maybe I fell asleep. Sometimes I watch these things late at night and then I miss part of it and don't realize that I do.
But yeah, I mean, I guess and obviously we're not going to answer this now or resolve it, but I am sort of drawn to this question for Garcelle about what it means to fit in with this group and what she does have to be willing to maybe sacrifice or turn a blind eye to or compromise. And is she willing? I don't know. I just feel for her on a certain level. And maybe this is coming back to that place that I sensed in her of like where the truth matters. Mm-hmm. Feels like I feel this more with her than I've ever felt it with any other cast member, that there maybe really is this question of, can I do this? Can I go along with the fictions that get written in the Real Housewives universe in order to keep the wheels greased?
Mm-hmm. Do I need to?
Yeah, because, and I mean, it'd be interesting if that inner conflict is really true for her, because again, I felt watching that, I really didn't feel good watching that. Like it really, like I said, it turned something in my stomach. It was just like this, there's something about this that feels gross. And I wonder if that's sort of picking up on Garcelle's deeper commitment or desire for like a certain level of integrity in her personal relationships that I just don't know she can walk on this show.
Not just her personal integrity, but also an integrity to how she participates, moving forward in industries, that have excluded in certain ways people like her. Mm-hmm. And what she's standing for. There's so much out there right now. And I maybe there's some sort of inner conflict herself with, being successful, and she's working her ass off. She's providing for her family. She's on it. And, maybe there's some conflict about what she has to do in order to have success, to be successful. And maybe we're watching her wake up to that or understand that on a deeper level, or maybe it's something she's always known and we're getting a bird's eye view of that, that there's something really that happens in these collective sort of where if she's the only person of color being represented in this, what does it take? What does it take to be her and to have room and space and be able to talk and say things and have people miss the larger, aspect that she's actually bringing in? And does she know she's bringing it in?
Well, it's so interesting because you mentioned her divorce. Mm. And, again, I got this flash. Who knows if it's true or not, but, it's just this flash that came in. Just suddenly being aware of her ex-husband being white. And he was like a power agent at like a really big sort of Hollywood agency. And then it makes me, I wonder if the mistress or the woman he was sleeping with was white. Something about that kind of came in around this notion of Garcelle's relationship to being an outsider in the system. The fact that she was like in a power couple to a white man in this industry, then got sort of betrayed and cheated on. I don't really know what I'm saying about that. I just felt the possibility of that thread sort of connected through all of this, and her relationship to who she is as like a Haitian immigrant and a woman of color, like in LA and Beverly Hills in the entertainment industry, and just navigating.
Yeah, how old was she when she moved here?
I don't know.
Do you know?
I don't know.
It'd be interesting to know how much time she spent here versus, Haiti, because there's definitely, there's a definite difference of growing up a person of color in Haiti versus growing up a person of color here in the United States. And that's interesting. How was she nurtured at home, and to what age, and what was it like to get here and have that sort of cultural what's this? What's happening here? What was that difference? Like, I don't know much about why she moved here, why they came here.
Mm-hmm.
Those would be important things to understand. What was it like in Haiti for her? And then what was it like when she arrived?
All right. Well, I know that your time is limited, so I don't want to keep you. Is there anything kind of remaining on the Dorit Garcelle topic that lingers with you, or you feel like needs to be brought in or named?
Just that it's so complex, really. Like, there's so many unknown factors. We can wax around this as, guessing and making stuff up. So, I kind of feel like I just want to say it takes a lot, I think, for them to put themselves out there, in these ways. And I always feel a little like I don't want to be slamming people for what they're doing, and I don't know how they put themselves out there the way that they do. But maybe there's some gratitude to be able to kind of reflect with you about how people show up with each other on a TV show that's supposed to be a reality TV show, and how it gives us the opportunity to sort of drop into belonging, and when we don't feel like we belong, where that might give us a perspective that we're not able to see. We're bringing that the lens that we're looking out through, if we don't feel like we belong, might limit our ability to be in conflict. Something happens there. We can't hear each other.
And I think for me, and I'm sure there's just so much more we could say about this, but I think as I kind of take a step back and just look at the bigger picture of this whole thing, I really do feel, and I don't even really know what I mean by this, but I just energetically feel how this situation did in some way represent for Garcelle just kind of like a losing battle against a system that wouldn't fully understand her. It's like I get caught in someone else's matrix, in someone else's framework. I'm trying my best to sort of navigate through that. They're not hearing me. They're not seeing me. I'm bumping up against walls. By the end, I just kind of have to like roll over and give a little. I guess I just feel the desire to name that because I do see where Garcelle and Dorit kind of reflect each other as human beings and in the personal. But for me, there is a sharp distinction where it does feel like Dorit unconsciously, unwillingly created a framework, which then others participated in for their own various reasons, in that Garcelle got caught in a framework and there was really no way out of it for her.
And this frame also feels to me like it's been in existence. Mm-hmm. Like it's a larger frame that is easily held in position because it already exists. Like Dorit can create that frame and there's a template for it already. So it snaps right in, and then a whole other force comes in there. That's what I feel energetically. There's something so much more. And I would say to people, like you mentioned Garcelle, so for people that are seeing Dorit here and Dorit, it's like if you get enough information reflected back to you that doesn't seem like it reflects who you are, you might want to slow down and take a look. Right? That's been where my biggest growth has been. If I've gotten information from a few different directions that doesn't match what my experience is, that's where I really saw myself and woke up to things that I wasn't willing to feel and see. And that's where my biggest growth has been. So I want that for her.
There was that moment where Garcelle even said, like, are we here to grow? And then Erica, who is on another planet, like not literally, but almost literally on her own show, just piping in, being like, I'm not, honey, I'm all set. It was so weird. Oh my God, Erica at this reunion is wild. But the last thing I want to say that I do want to say, because I felt it so deeply at one point, though, is I'm so relieved for Garcelle that Crystal is there and that she's not alone, because I just keep thinking about, for example, Tiffany and Dallas, to some extent Ebony to New York, even though Bershawn was kind of there in the background. I don't know. I like specifically for Garcelle, I feel happy and relieved for her because it does feel like there's such a relationship to the experience of aloneness. And yeah, being on the outside in a certain type of way that like you said, feels so connected to her heart and so painful and vulnerable that I feel relieved for her that she's not alone in that experience. And I feel like that might be the one reason why she's able to like keep hanging out in this process or this experiment.
Yeah. It's a shame that, the whole Erica storyline eclipsed, I think, this other storyline that actually could have, I think we maybe part of why it's hard to parse all this out is because so much of the footage went towards other storylines where maybe if we got more pieces, we would have more filled in here. We're not making shit up.
It's true because part of like the dumpling night when Dorit was recounting what pissed her off, when they flashed back to it, they actually flashed back to a moment they didn't even show in the original episode. Like that's even like I was like, wait, we never even saw, because I only knew because I was fast forwarding to all those different moments, and I was like, oh, they didn't even show us this moment, So yeah, I think there was a lot we didn't see.
Feels like there is a lot behind the scenes there. Yeah.
All right, Piper. Well, thank you again so much. As always, your insight and your wisdom and your compassion is very much appreciated and cherished here at the Deep Dive.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks for having me on. It's always fun.
If you guys don't already, make sure you follow me on Instagram, Jamie Stein, JamieStein. If you're interested in my work, head over to my website, HollywoodReadings.com, and email me about sessions. And I also just want to make sure I thank everyone who's been rating and reviewing the podcast. It truly means the world to me. And also like the DMs I get, I love hearing that it has an impact for a lot of you, and that we're not just sitting here chattering about the Real Housewives for no reason. All right, with that, I will see you guys next time. Bye.